July 27, 1989, at Tripoli International Airport in Libya. 181 passengers and 18 crew members board Korean Air Flight 803. For many on board, this is the final leg of a long journey home. They are South Korean workers, having finished their contracts in the Middle East, eager to reunite with their families in Seoul. The aircraft, a McDonnell Douglas DC-10, is a familiar workhorse of the skies. The mood is likely one of tired relief, anticipation, and the quiet hum of an aircraft preparing for a long-haul flight. But outside, the weather is closing in. A thick, soupy fog blankets the airport, mixed with rain and low clouds. Visibility is dropping fast, a challenge for even the most experienced pilots. In the cockpit, Captain Kim Ho-young, a veteran with over 13,000 flight hours, is in command. He's joined by First Officer Choi Jae-hong and Flight Engineer Hyun Gyu-han. They know the conditions are not ideal, but they are professionals, tasked with getting their passengers home safely. Little does anyone know, this routine departure into the dark, foggy night will soon turn into one of Libya's most catastrophic aviation disasters. Just after midnight, at 34 minutes past the hour, Flight 803 receives clearance for takeoff. The massive DC-10, registration HL7328, thunders down runway 18 and lifts off into the murky darkness. Their flight plan is clear. After takeoff, they are to make a right turn and navigate towards a radio beacon, the Tripoli VOR, to set their course for Bangkok, the next stop on the way to Seoul. As the plane climbs through the thick clouds, the pilots are flying blind, relying entirely on their instruments to tell them which way is up, down, left, and right. This is known as Instrument Meteorological Conditions, or IMC. The lights of Tripoli disappear below, swallowed by the fog. The crew is supposed to be focused on their standard departure procedure, a precise sequence of actions to ensure they climb safely away from the ground. But somewhere in those critical first moments, something goes terribly wrong. Instead of a right turn, the 250-ton jetliner begins a slow, gentle turn to the left, heading away from its assigned flight path and towards a hilly area padros of the airport. In the air traffic control tower, a controller watches the small blip representing Flight 803 on his radar screen. He sees the unexpected left turn. This is a deviation, a serious one. He immediately grabs his microphone, trying to contact the crew. Korean Air 803, you are off course. Turn right, heading ... double quotes, but his calls are met with silence. He tries again, his voice growing urgency. Korean Air 803, do you read? Acknowledge. You are deviating from your cleared departure. Still, nothing. The radio is dead silent. In the cockpit, there is no response. It's as if the crew is in their own world, unaware of the danger they are flying into. The controller can only watch helplessly as the radar blip continues its slow, fateful arc to the left, descending instead of climbing. For the people on the ground and the souls on that plane, the next few seconds will be the difference between life and death. The controller's repeated calls echo into the void, a desperate, unheard warning of the looming disaster. It's now 0:38, just 4 minutes after the wheels left the runway. The DC-10 is flying low, far too low, at an altitude of only about 800 feet. Blinded by the fog, the crew has no visual reference, no horizon, just the glowing dials of their instrument panel. Suddenly, a violent jolt rips through the aircraft. The plane has struck something. It was an irrigation pipe on the ground, the first impact. Seconds later, a deafening crash echoes through the night as the jetliner slams into the wall of a house, then another. The impact is catastrophic. The fuselage, wings, and engines are torn apart, breaking the massive aircraft into several pieces. Jet fuel, pouring from the ruptured tanks, ignites instantly, turning the crash site into a raging inferno. The wreckage, engulfed in flames, scatters over a 500-meter area in a rural village, a scene comunicaco of utter devastation. For the people in the nearby houses, it was as if the sky had exploded. The quiet night was shattered by a sound that would haunt them forever. Rescue teams rushed to the scene, their progress hampered by the darkness, the fog, and the intense fire. The sight that greets them is horrific. The burning remnants of Korean Air Flight 803 are spread across the landscape. The first responders wade through the debris, calling out for survivors. Their hopes wax dim with every passing moment. Their initial search is grim. Amidst the carnage, they find only 4 people alive. 3 passengers and 1 flight attendant, pulled from the twisted, burning metal. The vast majority of those on board perished in the impact and the subsequent fire. Hours later, in a small miracle, another passenger is found, alive but critically injured. They are rushed to the hospital, but tragically, they would not survive. The final toll is staggering. Of the 199 people on board, 75 died at the scene, including the entire three-man cockpit crew. Another 49 would later die in hospitals from their severe injuries, bringing the total number of fatalities to 124. 75 people survived, many with life-altering burns and injuries, forever scarred by the night they fell from the sky. The investigation began almost immediately. Experts from Libya, South Korea, the United States, and the aircraft's manufacturer, McDonnell Douglas, converged on the crash site to piece together what happened. The flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, the black boxes, were recovered from the wreckage. They held the key to understanding the final, fatal minutes of Flight 803. The data confirmed what the air traffic controller had seen. The aircraft made an uncommanded left turn and began to descend shortly after takeoff. The cockpit voice recorder, however, was chilling. It revealed a crew that seemed confused and disoriented. There were no loud alarms, no shouts of panic, just a quiet, creeping sense of confusion that led them unknowingly toward the ground. The question was, why? The weather was poor, but the crew was experienced. The plane was a modern jet. How could this have happened? As investigators analyzed the evidence, a theory began to form: spatial disorientation. This is a terrifying and often fatal condition in aviation where a pilot loses their sense of direction, altitude, and orientation to the ground. In the thick fog and darkness, with no visual horizon, Captain Kim may have lost his ability to trust what his body was telling him versus what his instruments were showing. He might have felt like he was climbing or turning correctly, when in reality, the plane was banking and descending. The investigators also uncovered a crucial contributing factor: fatigue. The crew had been on duty for over 18 hours, with their rest period in Tripoli being inadequate. Extreme fatigue can severely impair judgment, slow reaction times, and make a pilot more susceptible to errors and disorientation. It's possible the captain was so tired that his brain simply couldn't process the conflicting information from his senses and his instruments. The investigation also looked into the possibility of an equipment malfunction. One theory was that the captain's attitude indicator, the primary instrument showing the plane's orientation relative to the horizon, may have failed or been misread. If this crucial instrument was giving false information, or if the fatigued pilot misinterpreted it, it could have led him to make the wrong control inputs, putting the plane into its fatal descent. Furthermore, the DC-10 at the time was not equipped with a ground proximity warning system, or GPWS, which would have provided an automated audible warning like terrain, pull up, as the aircraft got dangerously close to the ground. Such a system, standard on modern aircraft, could have alerted the disoriented crew in time to take corrective action. The final report concluded that the primary cause was pilot error. The captain, likely suffering from spatial disorientation and compounded by fatigue, failed to follow the correct departure procedure and inadvertently flew the aircraft into the ground. The crash of Korean Air Flight 803 was a terrible tragedy, but it also served as a stark warning for the airline. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Korean Air had a troubling safety record, with several major accidents staining its reputation. This crash, along with others, highlighted systemic issues within the airline's culture, particularly concerning crew training, flight procedures, and communication hierarchy in the cockpit. There was a perception that the airline's rapid expansion had come at the expense of safety standards. The crash in Tripoli became a painful catalyst for change. In the years that followed, and especially after another major crash in 1997, Korean Air undertook a radical overhaul of its entire safety program. They brought in outside experts, completely revamped their training protocols, and fostered a new cockpit culture that encouraged open communication and teamwork, moving away from a strictly hierarchical model. These reforms were incredibly successful. Over the next 2 decades, Korean Air transformed itself into one of the safest airlines in the world, a testament to the hard lessons learned from tragedies like Flight 803. The 124 lives lost in the Libyan fog were not in vain. Their loss spurred changes that have undoubtedly saved countless others. It's a solemn reminder that in aviation, progress is often written in the wreckage of the past, pushing the industry to constantly strive for a safer sky. Thank you for watching this look back at the crash of Korean Air Flight 803. If you found this documentary informative, please like the video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth stories from aviation history. Your support helps us continue to create this content. Fly safe.